there. We are going to discuss data quality. Now, this is Chris Young with 80/20 CRM. Let's get into it. I'm excited for this topic. No, not really, but you should be too. No, you shouldn't. Data quality is really important though. Yes, it is. It's essential to having inference that you can draw and making good decisions. So there's a couple of pyramids we're going to cover today that kind of tie back to data. I'll be brief with them. The first one, the DIKW pyramid. Data is the foundation with which we can derive information. Data in its purest form is just sensory feedback. So a single field with a single value means nothing without any context, but that's a piece of data, a Boolean field or a single word or phrase or something like that. They don't usually mean anything. They're just a single piece of data, but you put that in the context of a record and suddenly you have information. And you take that information, you combine it with some of your understanding and knowledge, and you gain more knowledge with that information. You can derive knowledge out of information. You pull it together, and your experiences and what your history can then bring you knowledge out of that information. And with knowledge, seeing that applied can drive wisdom, which is really what you're trying to get to, as much wisdom as possible in your space. So that is to help you understand the value of good quality data. It's essential so that you can ultimately have knowledge and wisdom to drive decisions by it. Everyone knows it, but just reiterating it there, you'd be surprised, maybe not, how many orgs or platforms or systems across the board, even across industries, even large companies just don't have that great of data. And so that's just a hard thing. There's a few things we're going to talk about with quality data, what that means. There's a few aspects of it. One is just having data in the system, right? Not being sparse or empty. So having data populated, that's just one small piece of it. Another is having fresh or recent or current data versus old, outdated data. Another is having unique data, not duplicate, because that's a part of cleanliness and quality. And so there's multiple aspects there. Something else that we would think about is kind of the life cycle of data. It's created, right? And then it's stored somewhere and used along the way. And then at some point it needs to be archived likely and or deleted. Some of it. That's not always the case, but that's kind of the typical life cycle to consider. So now we think, okay, well, I get it. We need good data. How do we make sure we have it? So there's a few tips and tricks, and this is where the inverted triangle is going to come in. This one you've probably seen before, called hierarchy of controls. This is common in engineering and safety space. And this is what are the best ways of making sure a scenario is safe, right? So if you think about OSHA, and in this case CDC, where I pulled this from, is the first thing you want to do is eliminate the hazard, or in our case, you want to eliminate the location of bad data, the opportunity for bad data. So that would mean, and you're going to maybe think this is silly, if you don't need a field, you don't want to have it because it's another opportunity for bad data, potential hazard, especially a free text field. The next would be a substitution. So this would be, hey, I need this piece of data, this information. I currently have a free text field. That's a huge opportunity for bad data. Let's replace it with a pick list or something simpler or different or more defined. Engineering controls would be something like a validation rule. Let's put something in place, guardrails, if you will, to make sure that certain data is in place. So I can put validation rules there. Administrative controls or changing the way people work. That's all about, I would say, training. Or maybe even changing the flow so that they don't have to collect so much data, or maybe refining it for them, changing the process. The last one, what's considered PPE or personal protective equipment, that usually does actually come down to training and other things, but maybe not as impactful here. So just consider that, like, how can I improve my data quality by implementing some sort of hierarchy of controls? So let's go into a few of those options that you have with Salesforce. So the first one, I would think, or maybe even just take a step back from that. Let's think about how can I review the data I have and make sure that it is good data or not. The first thing is to profile it, to understand your data. And there are some tools that you can use to There's the optimizer and a couple of other maybe app exchange tools that you can use and implement to see your data, how many fields are you using, and understand kind of the profile of what you've got. The next thing is to cleanse your data. So duplicates, incorrect data, bad data, obviously we do this before we try and import, we try and cleanse the data. And then matching and merging, trying to create like this is the source of truth, this is the golden record. And then you just have to monitor it over time. So that's an obvious process. But and then some of the tools that you might want to review or look at inside of Salesforce, validation rules are really useful. They can be annoying, just to be honest. They can be a little bit annoying, but they help train and guide your users like, hey, we need data in this field. And so validation rule will pop up. It can be it's not the right type of data. There's nothing there and they've hit a certain stage. There's lots of options for validation rules. If at all possible, avoid free text fields as much as possible. That's just highly suggested by Salesforce as well. You can't report on them. You can't really filter them. You can't, list views and other things. They're just really hard to do much with, right? So it's data, but it's really hard to draw information and knowledge and wisdom from a free text field at any sort of scale. So keep that in mind. There's also matching rules or duplicate rules. So trying to make sure you don't have duplicate records in the system is pretty valuable and important. There are some other kind of data cleansing tools on the App Exchange that you can go get, and they'll help you understand which fields are being used, duplication as well, kind of more advanced duplication, some other validations like emails and phone fields and other things that it can do more validation on. So that's just a little bit about your data and keeping it clean. So sometimes it needs an audit and sometimes you need some tools there, but you might think that's strange, but it's really important because Salesforce is just a big database. And if you've got bad data in, you're going to end up with, faulty information, bad knowledge, and really lack of wisdom, if you want to call it that. So food for thought on data. But we're going to jump into a little bit more. I just wanted to kick us off with that because data import and the import tools and data management are all really important for an admin, and especially when you've got millions of records potentially in parcels, and keeping those fresh and up to date is important. So again, this is Chris Young, just with 80/20 CRM, talking a little bit about data cleanliness, quality, and hygiene, and how we're going to jump into more about data import next. Thanks. Have a good one.